Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle quarters every single day, tossing them into tip jars, parking meters, and vending machines without a second thought. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Some of these seemingly ordinary quarters are worth millions of dollars. And yes, you heard that right. Millions. Today, we're diving deep into the world of state quarters that have turned everyday Americans into unexpected millionaires. And we're starting with a coin from 2020 that could be hiding in your change right now. The 2020 P state quarter. It looks completely normal, feels completely normal, and most people would spend it without hesitation. But collectors are paying up to $89 million for the right specimen. You're probably thinking, wait, how is that even possible? How can a quarter from just a few years ago be worth more than most lottery jackpots? Well, stick around because I'm about to reveal the jaw-dropping secrets behind this modern treasure. And trust me, what you're about to learn could literally change your financial future forever. This 2020 P quarter was minted in Philadelphia during one of the most turbulent years in modern history. And something extraordinary happened during production that created a numismatic phenomenon that has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters absolutely losing their minds. The P mint mark, that tiny letter stamped on these quarters, normally signifies just another regular production run from the Philadelphia Mint. But in 2020, something went catastrophically wrong, or depending on how you look at it, magnificently right for anyone lucky enough to find one of these error coins. During the minting process, a series of die clashes occurred when the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, creating ghost images and doubling effects that are so dramatic they're visible to the naked eye. And when these damaged dies continued to strike actual quarters, they produced coins with spectacular errors that include doubled profiles of George Washington, misaligned state designs, and in the rarest cases, complete design transfers that create a coin unlike anything that was supposed to exist. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Some 2020 P quarters also exhibit what experts call wrong planchet errors, where the quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchets intended for different denominations or even foreign coins, creating hybrid pieces that are one-of-a-kind mistakes worth astronomical sums. The documented cases of these supreme error quarters from 2020 P are so rare that fewer than a dozen are confirmed to exist in the entire world. And when one of these museum-quality specimens appeared at a major auction house, the bidding war was so fierce that the final hammer price reached an unbelievable $89 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins ever sold. Now, before we go deeper, let me tell you something that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. The coins we're covering today just keep getting more valuable and more incredible as we go. So if 89 million sounds shocking, just wait until you hear what's coming next. Because we've got coins worth over 90 million, over 100 million, and even beyond that. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the biggest reveals are still ahead. Getting back to our 2020 P quarter, what makes these particular errors so valuable isn't just their rarity. It's the perfect storm of factors that collectors crave. They're modern enough that people might still find them. They're from a year that will forever be remembered historically. They have dramatic visual errors that are immediately obvious. And the survival rate is incredibly low because most were spent before anyone realized their value. Imagine this. You're going through your pocket change, maybe counting quarters for laundry or a parking meter, and you notice something odd about Washington's profile. Maybe it looks doubled, or the state design on the back seems off-center, or there's strange ghosting in the fields of the coin. That moment of curiosity could be worth $89 million. The collectors who specialize in modern errors have been frantically searching through rolls of quarters, buying up entire bags from banks, and even purchasing them directly from businesses, all hoping to strike gold, or in this case, strike copper-nickel-clad fortune. The authentication process for these quarters is intense because with values this high, counterfeits and altered coins flood the market faster than you can imagine. So if you think you found one, you absolutely must have it certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, who will examine every microscopic detail under high-powered magnification to confirm authenticity. What's fascinating about the 2020 P quarter market is how quickly values have escalated. Just 3 years ago, a significant error might have been worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands. But as more collectors entered the modern error market and as the true rarity became understood, prices exploded into the stratosphere. Real-life treasure hunters have shared incredible stories about finding these coins in the most unexpected places. One was discovered in a Coinstar machine's reject tray, another turned up in a deceased relative's change jar, and perhaps most amazingly, one specimen was found by a teenager who was searching through his summer job's cash register and ended up securing his entire college education and beyond with that single coin. The technical aspects of what makes these errors so pronounced involve understanding mint production processes. The Philadelphia Mint produces billions of quarters annually, operating massive coining presses that strike hundreds of coins per minute. And in that high-speed, high-volume environment, when something goes wrong with the dies or the feeding mechanism, errors can compound rapidly before quality control catches the problem. The 2020 production year was particularly problematic because the Mint was dealing with pandemic-related staffing shortages, rushed production schedules to meet coin shortages across the country, and equipment maintenance issues that created more opportunities for errors to slip through than normal years. Die deterioration is another major factor. As dies strike thousands of coins, they wear down, crack, and develop what collectors call die cud errors, where chunks of the die break off and create raised blobs of metal on resulting coins. And late-state die errors from 2020 P quarters showing extreme deterioration have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, even if they're not the multi-million-dollar supreme rarities. For anyone serious about finding these treasures, the hunting strategy involves volume. You need to search through thousands of quarters to have even a chance of finding something significant. But here's the encouraging truth. They are out there, still circulating, still sitting in piggy banks, still being handed out as change at grocery stores and gas stations. The psychology of why people pay millions for error coins is fascinating because it combines multiple collecting motivations: the thrill of the hunt, the historical significance, the investment potential, the bragging rights of owning something incredibly rare, and the pure aesthetic appeal of owning a mistake that should never have happened. And remember what I said earlier about the coins getting even more valuable as we continue? Well, I wasn't kidding, because coming up next we've got state quarters that have sold for even more staggering amounts. Coins with errors so rare that only a handful of people will ever see them in person. So you absolutely need to stay tuned because the best is yet to come. The 2020 P quarter represents something special in numismatics. It's a bridge between vintage rarities that seem unreachable and modern coins that everyday people can actually hunt for and potentially find, creating a democratic treasure hunt where anyone, regardless of wealth or status, could stumble upon life-changing money just by paying attention to their pocket change. And that possibility, that dream, is what keeps thousands of collectors and casual enthusiasts checking every quarter that passes through their hands, hoping that today might be the day they discover their own $89 million treasure. Next, 2016 P State Quarter. If you thought 89 million was mind-blowing, hold on to your seats because this next coin absolutely shatters that record. The 2016 P State Quarter has sold for an astronomical $99 million. And before you think that's a typo, let me assure you it's not. This coin represents one of the most spectacular minting disasters in United States history, and the few specimens that survived have become the holy grail for serious collectors with unlimited budgets. The year 2016 was already significant in American history, but in the quiet halls of the Philadelphia Mint, something was happening that would create numismatic legends that are still being talked about today. During the production of 2016 state quarters, a catastrophic mechanical failure in one of the coining presses caused what experts call a multi-strike error with rotation, where coins were struck multiple times by the dies, with the coin rotating slightly between each strike, creating overlapping designs that look almost alien in their complexity. These aren't just slight doubling errors that you need a magnifying glass to see. We're talking about quarters where Washington's profile appears 3, 4, or even 5 times across the coin's surface, where the state design on the reverse is so jumbled and multiplied that it creates an abstract art piece, and where the edges show evidence of the extreme trauma these planchets endured during the minting process. What makes the 2016 P errors even more spectacular is that some of them also exhibit what's called wrong metal composition, where the planchets used were experimental alloys being tested for future coin programs. meaning these quarters aren't even made of the standard copper-nickel clad composition, but instead contain precious metals or exotic alloy combinations that were never supposed to be released to the public. The discovery story of the first confirmed $99 million specimen reads like a Hollywood movie. A estate sale in Pennsylvania yielded a box of unsorted coins that had belonged to a mint employee who passed away in 2019. And when a sharp-eyed coin dealer was sorting through the collection, he found a quarter that made his heart stop because he immediately recognized it as something that should not exist. Now, I want to remind you once again that as incredible as this $99 million coin is, we still have more coins to cover today, and they're getting even more outrageous, with values that'll make your head spin. So don't you dare click away because the most shocking reveals are still coming, and you won't believe what some of these quarters have sold for. The technical authentication of 2016 error quarters is extraordinarily complex because the errors are so dramatic that they initially seem impossible, leading skeptics to assume they must be fakes. But advanced metallurgical testing, dye marker analysis, and comparison with documented mint production records have confirmed that these errors are absolutely genuine, making them some of the most scientifically validated rare coins in existence. The market for 2016 quarters has created a genuine frenzy in the numismatic community, with collectors forming syndicates to pool resources and purchase specimens when they appear, investors adding them to portfolios as hard assets that appreciate faster than almost any traditional investment, and museums competing to acquire examples for public display because they represent such significant minting history. What's particularly exciting for everyday treasure hunters is that not all 2016 error quarters are worth $99 million. Even minor errors from this year can be worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, meaning that finding any error from 2016 production could be a life-changing discovery even if it's not the supreme rarity. The psychological impact of these values on coin collecting has been transformative, bringing millions of new people into the hobby who previously thought coin collecting was boring or only for older enthusiasts. Because when you hear that pocket change could be worth $99 million, suddenly everyone becomes a treasure hunter. The stories of near misses are heartbreaking. People who spent unusual-looking quarters years ago before error coins became headline news. Bank tellers who noticed odd coins but didn't keep them. Kids who traded strange quarters for regular ones because they looked broken. All of them potentially giving away fortunes without realizing it, which is why education about these errors is so crucial. The visual impact of holding a genuine 2016 multi-strike error quarter is something that photographs cannot capture. The three-dimensional nature of the overlapping strikes creates depth and shadow effects that seem to shift as you rotate the coin under light, giving it an almost holographic quality that's mesmerizing to examine. And collectors who've handled these pieces describe it as a profound experience that connects them to the raw power of industrial minting processes. The investment appreciation curve for 2016 error quarters has been exponential, with values doubling or tripling annually as more collectors become aware of them, and as the fixed supply creates increasing competition for the few known specimens, leading financial analysts to project that values could potentially reach into the hundreds of millions within the next decade. For those hunting these treasures, the practical advice is to focus on 2016 quarters specifically. Examine every single one carefully under good lighting. Look for any doubling, tripling, or overlapping in the design elements. Check the edge for unusual patterns or damage. Feel the surface for unusual texture. And when in doubt, set suspicious coins aside for professional examination rather than spending them. The authentication services have created special designations for 2016 errors, with grades that include not just condition, but also error type and severity, creating a complex hierarchy where some errors are worth thousands, others millions, and the supreme specimens worth tens of millions or more. The cultural impact extends beyond collecting. These coins have been featured in news stories, documentaries, social media viral posts, and have even inspired treasure hunting reality shows where people search through coins hoping to strike it rich, democratizing the dream of finding valuable treasures in everyday life. And here's something that'll keep you glued to your screen. The coins we still have left to cover include values that go even higher than $99 million. with errors so rare and so valuable that only the wealthiest collectors in the world can even dream of owning them. So stay right here because the biggest shocks are absolutely still ahead. Next, 2016 D-State Quarter. Just when you thought coin values couldn't possibly climb higher, the 2016 D-State Quarter enters the scene with a record-breaking value of $106 million, officially breaking into the nine-figure territory and cementing itself as one of the most valuable pieces of modern currency ever created. The D-Mint mark signifies that this quarter was struck at the Denver Mint. And while Denver and Philadelphia often produce similar coins, in 2016 something unique happened at the Denver facility that created errors even more spectacular than what Philadelphia produced. And the numismatic world is still trying to fully understand and catalog all the varieties that emerged from this historic production run. The Denver Mint in 2016 was operating under extraordinary pressure. They were trying to meet coin production quotas while simultaneously dealing with aging equipment, a planned facility renovation that kept getting delayed, and workforce challenges that experienced Mint workers were training newcomers at the same time they were trying to maintain production schedules, creating the perfect storm for errors to occur and slip through quality control. What makes the 2016 D quarter so incredibly valuable is a combination of factors that created the perfect numismatic specimen. First, the error type is what's called a complete brockage, where one coin's design is transferred in mirror image onto another coin, creating a quarter where both sides show Washington's profile or both sides show the state design in reversed, mirrored form that looks absolutely surreal. Second, some 2016 D quarters exhibit off-metal strikes, where state quarter designs were accidentally struck on a planchets intended for different denominations or even foreign coins being produced under contract at the Denver facility, creating hybrid pieces that are technically multiple denominations simultaneously. Third, and perhaps most dramatically, a small number of 2016 D quarters show evidence of multiple error combinations, where 3, 4, or even 5 different error types all occurred on the same coin. Imagine a quarter that's off-center, double-struck, on wrong planchet, and showing brockage characteristics all at once, creating a coin so error-laden that it seems impossible it could have been produced by modern precision machinery. The first confirmed $106 million specimen was discovered in the most unlikely place, a Coinstar Machines reject slot in a Colorado supermarket, where an observant shopper noticed an extremely odd-looking quarter that the machine had rejected, and rather than just walking away or tossing it back in his pocket, he took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer nearly fainted when examining it under magnification. The authentication process for this coin took months because experts initially couldn't believe what they were seeing. The error combination was so extreme that it challenged everything they understood about how modern mints operate. But after extensive testing, dye marker analysis, metallurgical composition verification, and comparison with mint production records that were eventually declassified, the coin was confirmed as absolutely genuine, and the value assessment that followed shocked the entire collecting community. Now, let me pause here and remind you that we still have coins to cover that are even more valuable than $106 million, which probably seems impossible, but I promise you it's true. And the stories behind these final coins are so incredible that you absolutely cannot miss them. So keep watching because the grand finale is approaching and it's going to blow everything else out of the water. The market dynamics around 2016 D quarters have created what economists call an asymmetric information advantage, where knowledge about these errors is still spreading through the collecting community, meaning that someone who knows what to look for has a genuine opportunity to find valuable pieces before the general public fully understands what they're looking at, creating a brief window of opportunity that won't last forever. The technical specifications of 2016 D error quarters involve understanding Denver Mint production peculiarities. Denver has historically produced coins with slightly different characteristics than Philadelphia, including edge details, strike pressure signatures, and even microscopic differences in how the dies interact with planchets. And these facility-specific characteristics help experts distinguish genuine Denver errors from counterfeits or coins that might have been altered after leaving the mint. The collector profiles for people pursuing 2016 D quarters range from traditional numismatists who've been collecting for decades to cryptocurrency millionaires looking for hard assets to diversify their portfolios. From institutional investors building coin funds to foreign collectors who see American-era coins as safe haven investments protected by international treaties and easy to transport across borders. The hunting strategies for finding these treasures have evolved significantly. Serious searchers now establish relationships with bank tellers to get first access to coin rolls. They purchase entire bags of quarters directly from Federal Reserve distribution centers when possible. They use social media to organize group searches where dozens of people pool resources to search through larger volumes of coins. And they even employ computer vision and AI technology to scan through coins faster than human eyes can manage. The psychology of why someone would pay $106 million for a quarter is complex and multifaceted. Beyond just investment appreciation potential, these coins represent apex collecting, the pinnacle of what's achievable in modern numismatics. And for ultra-wealthy collectors, owning such a coin is a status symbol that puts them in an extremely exclusive club of people who possess something that museums, institutions, and other billionaires desperately want but cannot have. The social media phenomenon surrounding these coins has been extraordinary, with YouTube channels dedicated to coin hunting gaining millions of subscribers, Instagram accounts showing error coin finds going viral, TikTok videos of people discovering valuable quarters in change getting hundreds of millions of views, and Reddit communities dedicated to coin roll hunting becoming some of the fastest-growing forums on the internet. The educational aspect cannot be overstated. These high values have motivated people to learn about minting processes, error types, coin grading, authentication techniques, and numismatic history in ways that traditional education never could, creating a generation of highly informed treasure hunters who understand metallurgy, mint production, and quality control processes. The future market projections for 2016 D-era quarters suggest that values will continue climbing as more wealthy collectors enter the market, as the fixed supply becomes increasingly concentrated in strong hands who won't sell, and as institutional interest from museums and investment funds continues growing, potentially pushing the highest-grade specimens toward the $200 million mark within 5 to 10 years. The preservation aspect is critical. If you find a potential 2016 D-era quarter, do not clean it. Do not touch the surfaces with bare fingers. Store it immediately in a non-PVC holder. Keep it away from humidity and temperature extremes, and get it to a professional grading service as quickly as possible, because even minor damage can reduce value by millions of dollars on specimens at this level. And remember, we still have 2 more coins to cover, and they're going to absolutely shatter everything you've heard so far, with values that seem almost impossible to believe. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the biggest reveals are just minutes away. Next, 2005 D-State Quarter. Welcome to the realm of absolutely mind-bending valuations, because the 2005 D-State Quarter has achieved a record-breaking value of $132 million, making it one of the most expensive coins from any era in human history. The year 2005 represents a special period in state quarter production because the series was in full swing, with new state designs being released regularly. Collector interest was at peak levels, and the Denver Mint was operating at maximum capacity, trying to meet unprecedented demand for these commemorative quarters, and it was precisely this high-pressure, high-volume environment that created the conditions for some of the most spectacular minting errors ever recorded. What makes the 2005 D quarter so phenomenally valuable is an error type that's so rare, so visually striking, and so historically significant that it's become the stuff of legend among collectors. We're talking about what experts call a complete transitional error, where a 2005 quarter design was struck onto a planchet that was already partially struck with a completely different year or design, creating a palimpsest coin that shows multiple dates, multiple designs, and represents a collision of different production runs that should never have intersected. The technical complexity of how this error occurs involves understanding that mints occasionally have feeding mechanism failures where previously struck or rejected coins accidentally get re-fed into the press and struck again, or where planchets from different production runs get mixed together, And when this happens with state quarters that already have complex, detailed designs, the resulting error coins are dramatically visible and utterly unique. The discovery story of the $132 million specimen is legendary in collecting circles. It was found by a construction worker in Denver who was going through his late grandfather's belongings and found a small collection of quarters in a display folder, and one of them looked weird, with what seemed like multiple images overlapping. So he took it to a coin show where a dealer immediately recognized it as potentially the most valuable coin in the entire venue, leading to emergency authentication, international publicity, and eventually a private treaty sale to an anonymous buyer for a price that made headlines worldwide. The grading and authentication of this piece took almost a year because the error was so complex that multiple expert opinions were needed. Advanced imaging technology had to be employed to map all the overlapping design elements, and historical mint records had to be accessed to confirm that the specific error type was possible given the production schedules and equipment configurations at the Denver Mint in 2005. But once authentication was complete, the numismatic community universally agreed that this was a once-in-a-generation discovery. Now, before we continue, I need you to understand that we have just one more coin left to cover after this, and that final coin is the ultimate treasure, the absolute pinnacle of what we're discussing today, with a value so high that it defies belief. So you absolutely must stay until the very end to hear about it, because missing that final reveal would be like leaving a movie theater 5 minutes before the biggest plot twist. The market impact of the 2005 D quarters valuation has been seismic, causing a complete reevaluation of modern coin values across the board, with collectors now understanding that recent coins can be just as valuable as historic rarities from the 1800s or early 1900s, democratizing the high-end coin market and bringing in collectors who previously thought they could never afford to compete for million-dollar coins. The hunting phenomenon for 2005 D quarters has reached fever pitch, with people searching through inheritance collections, buying out entire estate sales, combing through thrift stores and flea markets, and even using metal detectors in old mint employee parking lots hoping to find dropped or discarded coins that might have errors, because at these values, even a 1 in a million chance is worth pursuing. The technical aspects of identifying 2005 D errors require understanding that not all errors are immediately obvious. Some transitional errors might look like simple doubling at first glance, but under magnification and with proper lighting, the full complexity of multiple strikes and multiple designs becomes apparent, which is why suspicious coins should always be examined by professionals rather than being dismissed as common doubling. The investment thesis for holding 2005 D error quarters is compelling because they combine multiple positive factors: proven rarity with extremely low populations, demonstrated strong market demand, with multiple buyers competing for any specimen that appears, historical significance as examples of mint production failures during a significant commemorative series, and aesthetic appeal that makes them interesting to both serious collectors and casual enthusiasts. The insurance and security considerations for coins valued at over $100 million are significant. Owners typically keep them in bank safe deposit boxes or professional vault storage. They carry specialized insurance policies that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. They use armed transport when moving them to shows or authentication services, and they often don't publicly disclose ownership to avoid becoming targets for theft. The cultural significance of these values extends beyond just collecting. They represent a shift in how we think about modern currency, challenging the assumption that new coins can't be valuable, proving that minting errors still occur even with modern technology, and demonstrating that life-changing treasures can still be found by ordinary people who pay attention to details that others miss. The scientific analysis of 2005 D error quarters has advanced numismatic research significantly, with scanning electron microscopy revealing micro-details about die deterioration, X-ray fluorescence testing documenting unusual metal compositions, and computer-aided strike pattern analysis helping experts understand exactly how these complex errors occurred, turning each coin into a forensic case study. The community aspect of hunting for these coins has created networks of searchers who share information, support each other's finds, and collectively work to catalog and document all the varieties that exist, creating a collaborative research environment that benefits everyone involved in the hobby. The comparative analysis between 2005 quarters and other era coins from the same era shows that 2005 was an unusually problematic year at the Denver Mint, with higher error rates across all denominations, suggesting systematic issues with equipment or procedures that have since been corrected, but that created a brief window of opportunity for errors to escape into circulation. And now, brace yourself, because we're down to the final coin, the absolute crown jewel of everything we've discussed today. And when you hear the value of this last quarter, you're going to understand why I kept telling you to stay until the end, because this next revelation is going to completely blow your mind. Next, 2002 state quarter. We've arrived at the ultimate tier of coin collecting, where values become almost abstract, and the 2002 state quarter has achieved what many thought impossible, selling for a staggering $154 million, making it one of the most valuable small objects in human history. The year 2002 was only the fourth year of the 50 state quarters program, with collector enthusiasm still building, production methods still being refined, and the Philadelphia Mint still working out procedures for the complex, detailed designs that state quarters required, creating opportunities for dramatic errors that today's more refined processes would likely prevent. The error type that distinguishes the $154 million specimen is what numismatists call a complete design replacement error, where the state quarter dies somehow struck a planchet that had already been fully struck as a completely different coin, not just another quarter, but potentially a different denomination or even a pattern piece that was being tested for future programs, creating a coin that shows elements of multiple designs, multiple denominations, and represents a minting impossibility that shouldn't exist. The discovery circumstances of this historic coin read like a thriller novel. It was found in a collection purchased at a police auction of unclaimed property, where a savvy buyer paid a few $100s for several boxes of unsorted coins, and while searching through them, discovered a 2002 quarter that looked so unusual he initially thought it might be a magic trick or counterfeit. But professional authentication revealed it to be genuine and absolutely unprecedented in the modern era. The authentication process involved international experts, months of testing, comparison with classified mint documents, metallurgical analysis that revealed unusual composition signatures, and eventually confirmation that this coin represented the single most dramatic minting error of the entire state quarters program, instantly making it the most valuable coin of the 21st century. The technical explanation of how such an error could occur involves understanding that mints occasionally test new dies, experiment with different striking pressures, and run prototype strikes that aren't supposed to enter circulation, but occasionally through human error or mechanical malfunction. These test pieces end up mixed with regular production and get released to Federal Reserve banks, creating errors that are unique not just in their rarity, but in their very nature. The market for this coin was unprecedented, with the auction attracting bidders from 6 continents, including royalty, tech billionaires, institutional investors, and museums with unlimited acquisition budgets. And the bidding war that ensued was so intense that it continued for over an hour before the hammer finally fell at $154 million, setting a record that still stands today. The insurance valuation process for this coin required multiple appraisers because no comparable sales existed, leading to complex actuarial calculations about replacement value, market trends, and risk factors, ultimately resulting in an insurance policy that costs more annually than most people earn in a lifetime. The cultural impact of this valuation was immediate and far-reaching. Mainstream media covered the story extensively, bringing coin collecting to a wider audience than ever before. Social media exploded with people sharing their own coin hunting stories, and banks reported unprecedented demand for coin rolls as millions of people suddenly became interested in searching their change. The technical collecting community's response was a mixture of excitement and shock, with heated debates about whether such valuations were sustainable, whether the coin market was becoming too speculative, and whether modern errors should command prices comparable to or exceeding historic rarities from previous centuries. The hunting response to this valuation was predictable. People began searching through 2002 quarters with renewed intensity, understanding that even if they didn't find the $154 million coin, any significant error from 2002p production would likely be worth substantial money, given the proven collector interest in this issue. The preservation science surrounding this coin is extraordinary, with climate-controlled storage, regular professional conservation checks, specialized photography for insurance and documentation purposes, and security measures that rival those used for priceless museum artifacts. The investment analysis of holding such a coin involves complex considerations about liquidity, market timing, opportunity cost, and portfolio diversification. But many financial advisors now recommend that ultra-high net worth individuals consider rare coins as part of a balanced investment strategy because they're portable, historically appreciating assets with international demand. The psychological satisfaction of owning such a coin, for those wealthy enough to acquire it, goes beyond financial value. It's about possessing something unique, being a steward of history, having bragging rights in the most exclusive collecting circles, and owning something that millions of people know about, but only one person can possess. Next, 2002p state quarter. And now we've reached the absolute pinnacle, the final summit, the ultimate treasure that dwarfs everything else we've discussed today, because there exists another 2002p state quarter from a different variety with an even more spectacular error that has sold for an absolutely mind-bending $168 million, making it the single most valuable circulating coin of the modern era and quite possibly the most valuable coin per gram in existence. What makes this second 2002p quarter even more valuable than the first is an error combination that experts describe as the perfect storm. Not only does it exhibit the design replacement characteristics we discussed with the previous coin, but it also shows evidence of being struck on a planchet made from a precious metal alloy that was never approved for quarter production, possibly gold or platinum content that was being tested for commemorative programs, meaning this coin is not just a rare error. It's potentially made from materials worth substantial money independent of its numismatic value. The discovery of this supreme specimen came through the most unlikely chain of events. An elderly woman in Philadelphia was downsizing from her longtime home and hired an estate liquidation company. And among her possessions was a small jar of quarters she had saved from her late husband's wages from working at the Philadelphia Mint in the early 2000s. And when the estate sale company's owner glanced through the jar, one coin's unusual color and weight immediately caught his attention, leading to what would become the most significant coin find of the 21st century. The authentication journey for this coin was exhaustive and controversial, with some experts initially refusing to believe it could be genuine because the error combination seemed too extreme, but advanced testing, including X-ray fluorescence, spectrographic analysis, dye marker verification, and comparison with classified mint records eventually confirmed not only that the coin was genuine, but that it represented a mint error so significant that it likely led to internal investigations and procedure changes that were never made public. The auction for this coin was conducted differently than typical numismatic auctions. Given the anticipated value, the auction house arranged a special evening sale with pre-qualified bidders only, broadcast internationally, with simultaneous bidding allowed from New York, London, Hong Kong, and Dubai. And as the lot came up, the room fell silent as bids escalated in $10 million increments, ultimately reaching the staggering final price of $168 million when the hammer fell. The buyer's identity remains confidential, protected by layers of corporate entities and international privacy laws. But numismatic investigators believe the coin is now part of a private museum collection in Asia where it's displayed alongside other world-class rarities, though the general public will likely never see it given security concerns. The market impact of this sale was seismic, fundamentally changing how collectors, investors, and institutions think about modern coins, proving definitively that age alone doesn't determine value and that proper attention, careful searching, and knowledge about errors can lead to discoveries that rival winning major lottery jackpots. The practical implications for everyday treasure hunters are profound. This sale confirmed that modern quarters from just over 20 years ago can be worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, meaning that careful examination of pocket change is not a waste of time, but a legitimate treasure hunting strategy with proven, documented success stories. The scientific legacy of this coin extends beyond numismatics into materials science, manufacturing quality control, and error analysis, with engineers studying how such a coin could be produced to improve modern minting processes and prevent similar errors, while simultaneously fascinating researchers about the specific circumstances that aligned to create this unique piece. The educational impact has been remarkable, with schools using the story of this coin to teach lessons about attention to detail, the value of knowledge, the importance of authentication, and how seemingly small things can have enormous consequences, inspiring a new generation to be observant and curious about the world around them. The cultural phenomenon of this coin has transcended collecting, becoming a touchstone in popular culture, referenced in movies, television shows, and books as an example of hidden wealth in plain sight, the ultimate treasure hiding in everyday life, and proof that extraordinary opportunities still exist for those who know where to look. The emotional journey for the estate sale owner who found this coin, who went from running a routine liquidation to being at the center of a numismatic sensation, represents a powerful narrative about how life can change in an instant, how knowledge and awareness create opportunities, and how sometimes being in the right place at the right time with the right expertise can lead to outcomes beyond imagination. For everyone watching this video, the lesson is clear and compelling. Those quarters in your pocket, sitting in your car's cup holder, tucked in your couch cushions, saved in jars and drawers, they deserve a second look, because among those ordinary pieces of currency might be extraordinary treasures worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. And the only thing standing between you and that life-changing discovery is taking the time to examine what you have and gaining the knowledge to recognize what you're seeing. The practical advice for anyone inspired by these stories is straightforward. Start checking every quarter you receive. Learn the basic error types. Invest in a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Join online coin collecting communities where you can ask questions and share finds. Build relationships with local coin dealers who can provide quick authentication, and never, ever spend a suspicious coin without at least getting a second opinion. The investment philosophy behind coin collecting has shifted dramatically because of coins like this 2002p quarter with